We are live now.
The camera's rolling. Do something.
This is hilarious. I don't know. It seemed like such a good idea when we talked about it last time, and now I'm like, oh my God, it's actually happening.
Okay, yeah. I think we may be good if we introduce ourselves.
Be my
Alright.
guest.
All right. So this is Otto Lehnert tuning in from Lisbon, Portugal, as the hub leader of the young analyst community in Lisbon. And I'm very happy to be here with you today, Valeria, to get to know your initiatives. Okay, you start then, because ladies first.
So, hello everyone. Welcome to our first episode of the Young AI Leaders podcast. We're starting scrappy, we're starting DIY, and we're doing this first episode with Otto and me. I am the hub leader of Bogota. Right now, our hub has 13 members. We've met in person a few times, had a bunch of online meetings, and are still figuring each other out because we don't know how exactly this is going to work, but we definitely have the right attitude and mindset for it. So I think it just takes a bit of time.
Yeah, that's very exciting to hear. And I'm very happy to tune in from Lisbon, Portugal, as the hub leader of the young analyst community here in Portugal. And I'm very happy to be here with you today, Valeria. And I'm very excited to finding out how you guys are doing in Colombia in terms of AI, your past experiences, and how you guys are doing inside the hub. So yeah, thank you for being here with me today.
Yeah, we almost look like a TV newscasting thing. Like you're about to give the news, I'm about to give the news. So yesterday in Denver, Colorado, there was an accident.
Was there any accident? I mean, look, we had the blackout yesterday, which was pretty interesting here in Lisbon. There was not a lot of AI happening during 11 hours.
What's that?
11 hours of blackout, yeah. I'm guessing in South America, at least in Brazil, it's pretty common, right? But yeah, that was unprecedented, actually. I believe it was the longest blackout here in Europe ever experienced.
So since electricity was created and made available to homes, this is the longest blackout that there's ever been in Europe.
Essentially, yeah, 90 million people were impacted, and that's just
Yeah, you should talk about this with our Ecuador hub and their blackouts. Not normal, but all of last year they were in an energy crisis, and I think this year as well.
Do you have a lot of contact with the Ecuador hub, or how is it in general with the LATAM hubs? Like,
No,
how
I
outside
just
your group?
messaged him for the first time today. Like
Okay.
someone in the LATAM Leaders Hub messaged us, sent us the LinkedIn post of this person announcing that he was the new hub leader of Ecuador, or I don't know if it's like Guayaquil or Quito. So I just messaged him, added him to the group chat, and that's it. But I visited Ecuador last year, so that's why I know that they had such a big issue with electricity. I think in Colombia we're pretty good on that side for now. If we
Yeah.
build more data centers, harder.
Hmm. Do you usually people in, because I've lived in Brazil and I know Brazil is such a big country that we tend not to visit other countries inside of Latin America and South America.
Yeah,
So you as a Colombian, is it normal for you to, visit Ecuador and Mexico, or do you stay inside your country?
I don't know. We tend to travel like far away usually, but I'm trying to advocate to my family to go to Argentina, to Chile, and up to a few countries in Latin America. I know Mexico left and right, like
Okay.
north to south, east to west. There's still a few places on my list, but I know the people very well, the country, and we get along. Our personalities are kind of similar, but
I can
complementing.
imagine. Can you imagine the LATAM hubs ever coming together somewhere? And if they did, where would they come together? In Colombia?
That's a great question. I think me and Eugenio would probably fight for it. But he is so noble and such a good person that he would probably let me have it in Colombia,
You
at
asked
least the first
him.
time.
If you asked, he would probably let you.
From knowing him already, I know that he would be okay with that. And we have been talking about a get together.
Oh,
And
really?
yeah, I think they're gonna meet each other in Argentina. I won't be going to Argentina soon. But Buenos Aires hub leader and
So
Mexico
that's,
will be meeting together there. And
I
maybe the
must
San Francisco one.
I thought there was some rivalry going on there. I'm not sure. I follow quite many of the hubs around the world, but I must say the ones that are most active in terms of following and just interacting is the Mexico hub, I believe. Your hub is also on the top of the list. And I think Buenos Aires also have close to 300 members now on LinkedIn. So Latin America is leading the way, I must say.
Interesting. I kept on talking like Colombia and Latin America are generally like in the ass, like bottom of the queue in terms of AI development. Like we're really the last ones at the party. But it's great because when you're the last one in the party, you can check out which group of people you
Yes.
actually want to hang out with. There's a
Yes.
lot of other things that has been going on. So
Yeah.
you can have a better read of how you actually want to do it and pick from what works from different places.
I agree with you. I think especially when it comes to AI, we have to be a bit reactive in our approaches, right? Because we cannot really predict how far technology is going to come. Some developer somewhere in some company is going to come up with the latest version of a digital human that looks photorealistic or something like that. You can't really predict it. So you have to be reactive and respond to like the market demand essentially. So I agree with you that the positive impact of being the last mover in that sense is that you can look at what everybody else is doing and say, okay, this didn't work, so we don't even have to try it, and we can just plug in here where it's working.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Because we all kind of share that feeling of just being at the bottom of the line. This kind of has united us in some way. Like, no, we really need to make our region shine because in every other
oh,
sense, we're just not. So it's been really nice. Like, I talk with them pretty much every day.
yeah.
And it's interesting. People with very similar interests that are very keen on working together. And yeah, like I definitely think the most interesting or novel conversations will be cross-continental dialogues in the podcast.
Mhm.
But it's also nice to see the friendships and things that have been forming since this started.
Yeah. Do you think the fact that the different left-hand hubs feel like they're together in this feeling of being at the bottom of the line helps with the ambition, the impact, and how the members are showing up? Because at the end of the day, we're in a volunteering community and we have to kind of find our own energy and our ways to move. And while we're very excited, it's often hard to transmute that to the rest of the members. We're going to be eventually hundreds of members one day, hopefully. Do you think that helps with motivation and other aspects?
Yeah, I think
No.
it definitely gives you a different sense of responsibility. And I think we were talking about it last time we talked, that you were sort of careful not to step on the toes of like other AI initiatives in Lisbon,
Mhm.
while we are probably the first ones or some of the first ones.
Yes.
So we're usually not stepping on anyone's toes, and we're like the first ones like talking about this for the youth or like actually having this like serious proposal that's backed by AI for good that has like all this like international cooperation and structure. So I think we feel a pretty noticeable sense of responsibility.
Mhm.
And we also see that there's so much to do in our countries. Like Eugenio presented in ITU some of the challenges that Mexico City faces, and they're
Mhm.
pretty much copy paste from what Bogota faces. Obviously, different data points and so on, but very similar topics. We were like, okay, we share a lot of issues, we share some culture, we share this. Let's subspecialize. And that way we can tackle multiple problems at once, but in a very focused manner. And once we
Mhm.
develop a solution that's good enough, we can begin transporting it to other hubs and seeing how it scales, what needs to be tailored to each city. But we would all kind of just focus on the one thing because to really move the needle in anything, you need an insane amount of focus. So
Mhm.
if we just begin like working our separate ways, we definitely won't move as fast and we will probably be too ambitious in the things we want to do and
Mhm.
not actually have that big of an impact in any of them.
I think that's very interesting. Talking about solutions and impact, one thing is getting together this community and getting people together and interested and aligned, which is something that sounds to have been naturally happening in the LATAM region. But the other thing is really how can we really impact our ecosystems and our societies and our neighborhoods in a sustainable manner, and that affects everybody. What are kind of some of the use cases that you think personally, or maybe you have identified already in the LATAM region that are scalable and you guys want to focus on?
Well, the first one is education. I really feel like I'm the one being interviewed here, but I'm about
Yeah,
to
yeah.
put you on the spot. So I see what you're doing. Notice great hosting, actually. That's a really good skill, but you're not hosting me. We're hosting this together.
Okay, okay. I bet maybe we can explain to the viewers that we were just having a casual conversation, you and I, and we came to the conclusion that it was so interesting that we just wanted to record it and share it with the world. So yeah, thank you for complimenting me on my hosting skills. I will let you ask us some questions in return, probably.
Game recognizes game. That's just how it is.
I was asking about use cases you may have identified or you personally believe will have the most impact. You mentioned education, which is something I truly believe as well. I think education is very scalable. But
Education is definitely key. And basically, all our hubs have this as part of our pillar. We have different members with different skills, but we don't all share the same common ground, you know? Like we do a bit of like hunting of finding the best people to join our hub, but we also want to do the farming part where we really cultivate where they might be not so strong at, whether it's hard skills or soft skills. And we are creating this learning path for all our members, even hub leaders, to take
Mhm.
just basic things in leadership and programming and group projects, project management. Just what are the skills? I guess the question we're trying to answer right now is like, what are the actual skills that the future AI leaders need? Truly, not just another course to teach you programming. Oh,
Yes, completely agree with you. I completely agree with you. I think the skills that are going to be required in the future that we should instill in our young communities all around the world are definitely adaptability and resilience. I think especially adaptability, like the ability to to learn efficiently and to apply that efficiently as well, like in a good manner. I think those are skills that already are in such high demand, probably the number one skill. And I agree with you. Just another programming skill and AI 101s. Like I think there's a lot of buzz around that. There's certainly a lot of money being made also in education at that point. But what are the skills that we actually need as young AI leaders, right?
fundamental level, it really is having the vision, the awareness, and I guess the discipline to focus on this. There's so many competing interests in our mind all the time. We're the most anxious generation, the most like disconnected from each other. And we're really living the consequences of the technology that was created for us. And we can already see like where it's taking us. So I feel that just having that inner drive and willingness to open up the black box of technology and actually want to interfere in it and have an impact on it is already such a huge step. Like planting that seed on everyone of like, okay,
Mhm.
no, like this is our mission and let's just all swim to the same side.
Yeah, and we're uniquely positioned to actually shape these things because these tools were made so that it is easy to adapt them and to form them to our liking, to the needs that we have. If I think of something like coding back in the day, maybe in the 2000s, in the dot-com spectacle, there was still a lot of hard to gain knowledge that you had to apply. But I feel like these days the playing field is a bit more leveled out. And
Yeah.
so, especially the skills that you were mentioning are becoming more and more important. And one last thing I wanted to say also regarding the interconnectedness, I think, the beauty of interconnectedness and internet and all these things is actually that I can connect with you here. You're sitting in Colombia, and I'm sitting in Lisbon in Europe. We have so much far apart, and we're just having a conversation as if we were sitting in front of each other.
Yeah.
And we do these conversations way too little. I wish that we as a society and maybe youth have more opportunities to come together like this. That's why I love the Young AI Leaders community as well. So I'm able to connect with you and everybody else. It's
Yeah,
great.
no, and we might actually see each other soon in the AI for Good Summit.
That's
Uh-huh.
in
And
July. When exactly? 8 to
July 7th to the 11th.
7 to 11 of July and
Yeah, yeah,
three.
yeah. And
Yeah.
actually one of the things that made me like text you on the first time, like, hey, I think you're doing really cool stuff. I'd love to chat with you, was the startup that you're working on. Like you're super active, very involved in the startup ecosystem and AI. Would you tell us a bit more how it's like for you in Lisbon?
Sure. So, thank you. I think my startup was founded 2 years ago. And essentially, we recognized, or I got recognized in the beginning when I founded it, that I believe AI is becoming smarter and smarter. And if we give AI a tool to be emotional, the emotional intelligence of AI is also going to be way higher. And, as our generation is facing all these issues that you were speaking about, loneliness and not being connected and all these things, our platform, SoKAI, is a mental health companion that also involves a chatbot you can speak to, etc. While that is not a replacement for a real human connection or a replacement for a therapist, many people just need access to something like that. And that's a cause I'm very passionate about. And that's also one of the reasons I'm here in AI for Good. AI is doing its part in AI for Good as well. I'm very passionate about this space.
That's interesting. Like combining mental health, wellness, and technology. I'm sure it's going to have a big welcome in the world.
Yeah, did you know that mental health or companionship, how they phrase it, is the number one use case for LLMs?
Well, I know that because I use it for that as well. I
Isn't
know.
it? Isn't it interesting? Yeah.
Yeah. But
Because, yeah,
I still
I
go
feel
to
like,
my therapist.
what's your dog's name, by the way?
Is she still around? Oh yeah. Yeah, she's in the ground next to me. Super
Yeah,
cute.
we're like our companions before AI became our companion now. You speak to your dog, even though you don't get an answer back, you just feel better, or your dog comes to you when you're feeling sad.
Yeah. What's the name of your dog?
My dog is Titan. He's a Portuguese Podengo.
What? He sounds big.
Yeah, actually, there's a small, medium, and a big version of him, but he's actually a smaller version. I was taking him out during the blackout, and so many people were outside taking their dogs out. I didn't know that my neighborhood has so many dogs. Like it was just a lot of dogs.
All at the same time.
Yeah.
Crazy. But Titan, that's like such a like strong name. Like
Yeah.
I would put it on a chihuahua just for kicks and giggles. Just Titan.
You were asking how the Lisbon Hub is doing. So in general, we have 15 members now. Our leadership team is full now. It took a bit long for me to really make a decision.
Oh my
Really speak.
Lord. I felt
I was
like
like,
it took forever. Maybe I'm gonna just try again.
when did your mandate start?
When did
What
I
day?
what?
When did your mandate start?
In Jan. I was the first batch.
Okay, okay. Because mine started in February. So
Okay.
I guess I took 3 months almost.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
sounds right.
Yeah. How did you find your people?
So I reached out to some people that I knew. I also obsessed over this flyer that was gonna have the positions of regional lead,
It looks
impact
great.
lead.
It looks great.
Did
After
you?
a long time, I was thinking about asking you to give it to me, but then I was like, she can't just give it to me for free. But now maybe I'm gonna ask that question.
No, I would have probably
Please.
given it to you
Looks
because
like you guys should check it out on LinkedIn.
yeah, I obsessed over it quite strongly. It became like I definitely noticed I got into the perfectionist loop, and I'm like, no, 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 you know, perfect is the enemy of good. Let's just release it out into the world and shared it with all my networks and WhatsApp. Like I'm in a bunch of group chats here in Bogota of AI stuff. So I shared it and I asked my friends to repost it. And I wouldn't say it got viral, but I think it's the post that is most reshared
Oh wow.
in my
Okay.
LinkedIn
Yeah.
history. And through that, I got a bunch of applications. Some of them, they were just not in Bogota or they were over 30, blah, blah, blah. So I began interviewing and it was really interesting. I've never like interviewed someone for a position or a specific job. I'd
Mhm.
never done that before, but I quickly got the hang of it. And it was great. I loved meeting every single one of them. And if they didn't make it into one of the leadership positions, they would for sure be members. So just getting to know them well from the start was really nice.
Yeah.
I know my members quite well by now, which is
Mm.
super important. By the end of it, when I finished interviewing everyone, there were a few people who I hadn't heard back from, who applied but didn't book the interview. So I did a second reach out to them. Like maybe my email got in your spam box, but we have this last week to do the interviews. I interviewed someone that is now my impact lead, Alejandra, and I kid you not, we do the interview and it's like check, 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 check. Great vibes, great vibes. We'd never met before. And right after we finished the interview, I was literally like, yes, finally, we found her. We found her. Finally.
It
You
sounds
know?
very similar to what happened to me also, actually.
Really?
Because like, yeah, like in the beginning, I was very happy with the selection. That's what I'm trying to say. It took a long time. And in the end, like it was obvious essentially that person would be my regional lead now, the last person that was added to the team. And so, yeah, that's very interesting how you look at so many people and somewhere is the right person that you're able to meet, right? Like that just happens, and very interesting that you can find it through something like this.
And she has like so much experience and such a good balance of hard skills and soft skills and just compliments me in so many ways. And our regional lead, he's an entrepreneur. He's founded multiple startups before. He's a mentor for many and he's quite focused on NGOs as well. And I'm like, dude, we fucking need you. Like, please.
Thank you. Yeah, yeah.
Like having someone that's usually a mentor be part of your leadership team is something that's super cool.
Yeah, I think exactly. Since we're a young community between 18 and 30, the more expertise we can bring ourselves to then identify other people. Because what I've been hearing is that you like scouting for talent and people that can teach stuff efficiently. And so if you already have people that have some basic domain knowledge, it becomes easier to find the expert that's gonna be able
Ex-
to teach.
Yeah.
Leverage this here in the Lisbon Hub as well. So we have some advisors that are over 30 and that they're very happy to advise the hub strategically. And I think, yeah, in general, we as a young force, we're going to bring way more ambition and energy into this. And I think it's completely a blessing that the Africa chose us young leaders to be doing this. But yeah, at the end of the day, having some oversight with experts is always
Yeah.
good.
No, I think it was great, the addition of mentors. We
Mhm.
have pioneered this with Murillo, and I don't remember who else. And we talked about it with Alexandra and how it was really strategic to actually have people that are more senior be part of the community and be part of the initiative because they will be able to open doors for us in places that we don't even know. They'll be able
Exactly.
to speak on our behalf on the places where we're just not there because we're not senior enough.
Mhm.
He was telling me that when you're creating a startup, when you're creating something, it's easy to get into groupthink, where you're
Mhm.
surrounded by very similar people to you and you kind of all agree and pat each other in the back and think that you're doing great.
Like a
But
bubble.
yeah, exactly. It's a bubble essentially. So it's important to have someone that will be the devil's advocate and who will be calling out decisions that are just not the right fit for the project. I like that you have the position of like advisor. I think that's
Mhm.
more like flexible and open. I like it. I have not thought about that. I just thought about it through mentors.
Yeah, I wanted to come back to the States in LATAM and in Colombia right now. So you said, in terms of AI, there's not many initiatives happening, and you kind of don't have to worry to step on anybody. So at least they're not as thriving as we have in Europe, maybe in comparison. But are there any young initiatives? Like, do you have youth initiatives that are like youth-led in tech, or I know you're engaged in Women in AI, which is certainly something similar.
So for youth communities, I don't know that many. I just know the Global Shapers one from
Yes.
World Economic Forum. But in tech, I'm entirely sure. There is a bunch of initiatives, just probably not as advanced and developed as in the US, Europe, or China. but there's great talent. And a lot of US companies are hiring Colombian talent because they seem to
Like,
be just really outstanding engineers in general.
English in Colombia, I'm not aware of that.
I think it can be better and it's improved significantly in the last 10
Compared to
years.
other LATAM, obviously not the rest of the world. Like inside LATAM is Colombia better often than other countries in English, would you say, or is it kind of the same level everywhere?
Mm, I'm thinking that Mexico, Colombia, and Argentina, Chile are in a similar level, and for the rest, probably a little bit behind.
I would perceive, I mean, Brazil, I know for a fact is because, again, we're just such a big country, we don't feel the need to speak English.
So you are half Brazilian, right? Yeah,
Yes.
the San Francisco hub was born in Argentina. And
Mhm.
Alexandra, I'm not sure if she's like half Chilean or something.
Really?
Yeah,
What?
she speaks Spanish and she has Latin
What?
roots.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she has Latin roots. So, Latin America maybe as like a block, we're behind, but in talent and people, we are
Mhm.
everywhere. So,
Yeah, I feel like Latin Americans are like, they're like everywhere, spread across the world. Like everybody's like half Latin American somewhere. At least I see a lot of people, with us also living in Germany, Spain, Portugal now for 6 years. We're everywhere. Yeah.
yeah, no. And like, okay, now like a bit transitioning from the formal like program of young AI leaders, I think our listeners would like to know you a little bit better. Just who is Otto? What's his personality like? What are his hobbies and passions?
Okay, well, that's a good question. To be honest, beginning of my life, I was pretty much an athlete. Like my grandpa was an athlete, my great grandpa were athletes, so I was very athletic in the beginning. That was like my great passion, and I thought I was gonna be an athlete one day, doing sprint and other things. And then actually, I started gaining interest in theater and in acting, and I wanted to, back in the day, all the Disney series and all the teenagers in Hollywood and all these things. And I wanted to study in the Hollywood School of Arts and all these things. That was my second big passion. And then yeah, once I finished high school, my dad is an entrepreneur. It has been his entire life. So I've always seen him working from home since I'm a little child. So for me, that's like the natural way, like that I grew up to see. Like my dad was not out the entire day. And so yeah, I wanted to also become an entrepreneur. And you can't really predict or like design it. Like it's just something you kind of become along the way, I believe. Like you have this guiding light idea maybe and this drive and passion. But yeah, the rest is not by design. The rest is like lived and it comes with experience. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell. I love singing. I make music. I have music on Spotify actually. You can check me out. I'm not gonna tag my Spotify now, but
Why
no, for those who know, they know.
your big break, Otto? It could become viral.
In front of the entire world.
Yes.
I hope, at least it is our hope, that's gonna bring some value for the people listening out there, and they're gonna feel inspired in some way, and just in general entitled by what we're saying. And so I think this would also be my passion. But I want to know about you, Valeria. Since I spoke about me. I think you're a very interesting person. You do so many things, and yeah, and still find time to sit here with me in the podcast. So,
I wouldn't miss it for the world. I love the fact that you are an entrepreneur as well and have that experience because this kind of feels like an NGO startup monster. I don't know exactly how to deal with it. We were just kind of given some logos and some vague community guidelines. It's like, figure it out yourselves.
yeah.
We'll watch you from a distance. So I definitely have felt a bit more connected to that entrepreneurial spirit of this initiative and how
Hmm.
it could potentially be an incubator for startups and solutions. But okay, a bit about myself. I was born and raised in Bogota. I lived in the US for 5 years. So that's why my accent, and you pointed it out on the first time we met. Like, where are you from, really? Yeah, no, from
Yeah.
Colombia, but.
Yeah.
I do
Must
speak like a white girl. And I love traveling. I've been to more than 30 countries around the world. I love languages. I took my swing at German that I can like batch and French, which I love. A bit of I took Chinese, but I think that's forgotten now. And I think my next endeavor will definitely be Arabic. Arabic is
Yes,
so
I'm with you.
beautiful.
With you, I'm
Yeah.
with you. I also started Chinese for a little bit, but then, the pronunciation became really hard. And then I have friends who speak Arabic, so I was like, no, I'm just gonna go full in on Arabic.
Have you
And
been
I have
learning
a
it
100-day
already?
streak.
Have you been learning it already?
I have a 100-day streak on Duolingo. I can show you right now.
No
Yeah,
way. Oh
on
my
Arabic.
God. That's amazing. That I applaud that. I applaud that 100%.
Yeah.
And I actually studied political science and design, even though most of my middle school and high school years, I was very much a woman in tech. I was a woman in STEM, super active in like science competitions and everything that had to do with science.
What's your
But
favorite science?
my favorite,
Like natural
biology,
biology? Okay.
be a neuroscientist.
A neuroscientist.
Yeah.
Oh my God. No, my favorite natural science was definitely chemics because it was very like mathematical, but it was not like equational mathematical. It was like simple mathematics, like with the weight of atom and all these things. So I was very interested about that. But biology, actually, I wrote my high school dissertation on a biologic theorem, which it wasn't German because I was in German school. I was born German, went to German schools around the world. Yeah, but yeah, it was about the complexity of the eye, an indication that God exists, because the eye is so complex that it's kind of hard to explain with natural evolution. And so yeah, so biology,
Damn.
yeah, definitely very interesting.
Wow, Otto. Damn. That's really interesting. And I love this because it definitely attracts people like us that are kind of, I don't know, like a bit nerdy and smart, but very curious about life and very passionate about like where we're going and I don't know. It's really cool that we met. But
Yes.
right when I was graduating high school, the peace treaty was trying to be signed in Colombia and it didn't
Mm,
pass. People
mm,
voted against the peace treaty, and I'm like, what the hell? How is that even possible? Like,
yeah.
do you all want to still be at war? It just
Yeah.
blew my mind in so many ways and so many dimensions. There was a piece of my brain in every single corner of the room. I'm like, what? So I went into political science because I thought that could give me the tools to understand why this was happening. And I could see
Mhm.
that this didn't happen only in Colombia, but everywhere else around the world. So and it did. I understood it, but also
What
just
are your ambitions, Valeria? Who is Valeria gonna be in 5 to 10 years? What are your ambitions? Like, are
oh
you gonna be
wow.
the next, I don't know. I'm missing the mayor of some major city in Colombia, or what do you want to do? Do you want to go international? Because I'm pretty much also interested in peace. So when I hear peace, my ears ring. But yeah, where do you want to go? Where do you see yourself in 5 years or 10 years?
That is such a good question. I think I've thought about it more in like a 2 year time span.
Really,
So,
yeah.
2 years just working out at the hub and consolidating our projects and so on. And then at the 2 year mark where I step down as hub leader, then I go and see if I want to do graduate studies. And if I
Mhm,
do, I would like to go to Harvard or MIT or Stanford or something like that.
mhm,
But with the US being as it is, I'm not so sure.
mhm, mhm.
But in 5 years, I would have probably finished my grad school. What if, like, from this, a startup begins and I just focus on the company? Like, this is so aligned with my purpose that I'm willing to dedicate my life to it.
I see, many things converge here, and I totally see what you're saying.
What about you?
Me, I don't know, man. I feel like entrepreneurship is cool, but business for me is still too money related, too like non-human, Even though I'm doing something for human impact, and it's okay, it's totally for free. Now I'm plugging it's okay. So guys, it's totally for free. You guys can check it out on the website.
The
Uh,
link to the
yeah,
description.
I'm just gonna put our logo as the thumbnail. Even though I'm doing something for social good, business is still business at the end of the day. And there's nothing bad about it. It's already way better than, for me being employed. I was employed for over 3.5 years. My first job was at Google when I was 18 years old. I've been employed for a couple years, so I feel like I can say that an entrepreneur is definitely better for me, but it's still not where I want to be. I like this community a lot because it's showing me this political side of the world, of influences and aligning interests, collaborating internationally, nationally on these levels with institutions and governments. I think everything has its ups and downs, but I feel like in the future, that's just a feeling I have, is probably gonna steer towards, and hopefully opportunities are gonna come where I can do more in this type of arrangement.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned that because I used to feel like, oh no, I studied political science. Did I study the wrong thing? Should I have gone into engineering or something to like be able to talk about this? But all the hard skills, I'm learning them. And I've also realized that we're in such deep trouble, probably because not enough people from the social sciences were at the tables designing these technologies.
Mhm.
And
Yes, that's
technology and AI is extremely political. You know,
mhm.
it has power relations and it has such a
So true.
huge social impact. And I feel like having studied political science, I was able to realize that much sooner.
Mhm.
And I now claim very, I don't know, not authoritatively, but with a lot of conviction that no, we're claiming our seat at the table. And yeah, this is not only for the engineers and the software developers.
Yes.
It's
Mhm.
too big of a responsibility to be left to so few.
100%. I'm doing postgraduate here at Nova SBE, which is a business school at the Haddad Entrepreneurship Institute. And it's about Gen AI. The last session yesterday, actually, I was up until 2 a.m. yesterday because I drank 2 coffees in the afternoon and I couldn't sleep. But it was okay because I was learning. The topic was AI ethics. It was just ethics in general and data and all these things. Don't you feel like the data protection and all these laws like came way too late? Essentially, like the governments and institutions were sleeping for far too long. And then, essentially it was already too late. The monster was already too big to be stopped. And then they come with regulations where then, whoever company is responsible pays 100 lawyers to mitigate any risks, and then they fit inside the box. But at the end of the day, our data is still not secure, and we're still getting tricked here and there. So I believe, in terms of data protection, was like the newest invention in technology where our governments and institutions like a bit behind to help us essentially to make it fair and inclusive and ethical. And do you think there's an opportunity in AI for that? Do you think governments and institutions still have the chance to come up with principles and regulations and other things in order for, the risks of AI to be contained, the known risks that we know right now and any future risks, right now I feel like the bigger risks are AI transparency, deep fakes and things like that, plagiarism for sure. But the more the technology advances, the more innovation there is, the more new risks appear that we couldn't predict beforehand. But again, just a question to you: do you think we're gonna get the AI curve? How do you think governments and institutions are doing around the world?
That's a very tough question. And, from what I studied in my profile, the natural tendency for me should be AI governance, but I'm not too excited about it, to be honest. Like, how do you
Mhm.
govern an open source technology?
Mhm.
And
Yeah, I
usually,
agree.
these big tech companies, they have so much money for lobbying. I feel that there's just like a lot of laws coming out and a lot of principles and talks coming out of like AI ethics, but I still have not really seen something usable that
Mhm.
matches the scale and speed of AI.
Yes, 100%.
Create the law, but you need a way to enforce it.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. That was also the argument I was making. I've always been the rebellious kid at school, I think, all entrepreneurs were like not the best kids in school. So yesterday I was also definitely doing some friendly fire when these things were said. And I agree with you 100%. I think AI is really the latest technology where you can't be proactive about it to a certain extent. Like you cannot predict really what's going to happen and the risks and all these things. And I feel that to a certain extent, to a certain degree, we have to be reactive. For example, the latest thing that the ITU did, I believe, some moderator can correct me if I'm wrong, but
Independent fact checkers needed.
but one of the latest things that the ITU did was you see on YouTube and LinkedIn and all social medias, you have to tick a box if the content is AI generated, you know, if it's an image or a video or something like that. And obviously they did that because they saw that the technology now has come so far that you can do deepfakes and other things, you know, and so they reactively enforced that, and now you have to consent that something is AI generated. So I think that's the way to go. I think that worked. For example, that's something that's now working. And I think, yeah, I agree with you. It's going to be very hard to be proactive and write actual laws around AI because
Yeah.
there's
This
a
is so
lot.
different from what lawyers normally regulate. And I see it more like needing ethical hacking, but exponentially, monstrously bigger than that. Just incredibly tough. I'm not sure if even the people leading the AI conversation have an answer for this. If you
Mhm.
asked Sam Altman or Jan LeCun or the Minister of AI from the UAE, I don't think they have a clear answer either.
Yeah, do you think, you know, sometimes when I hear, especially, you know, the AI leaders that are in commercial companies, like even though, you know, something like OpenAI, like Sam Altman, for example, don't you think they also there's a bit of an interest in on their side to, you know, blow the whole AI thing as much out of proportion as possible, you know, 60 billion valuation, all these things. DeepSeek came
No.
out and we saw that probably there's not going to be the need to invest, you know, so many billions of dollars to make the newest models if we innovate in certain ways. So do you think there's kind of an interest here or?
Well, I think we are in a perpetual prisoner's dilemma
Mhm.
where if the competitor is developing better and better AI tools with more data and more accuracy and whatever and more speed, then you're going to have to keep up. And if you slow down, you can't expect the other person to slow down, but you need to cooperate to not, you know, completely self-destroy. I don't know if we're that far into it yet or if it'll take a few years more for that coalition to begin emerging. But for now, we're in the arms race.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think we're definitely in an arms race. When it comes to intellectual property, because pretty much like your answer, when it comes to intellectual property, what do you think? You know, there's a big case. Obviously, OpenAI probably allegedly scraped the entire internet to feed its newest models. And what do you think? What is your expectation? What do you think is going to come out of the big IP cases that OpenAI is facing? Are they gonna have to pay? Are they gonna have to do something different with their models? And this is where I begin to see the political influence on AI. Obviously, the interests are too big to stop OpenAI, but what is your take? What do you think is gonna happen?
I think we are living through a redefinition of what intellectual property is. I don't think that the definition we used to have can stand anymore. And for a legal case to be questioning the mere definition of the concept is so big,
Mhm.
you know? Okay, at what cost, like benefiting who? Yeah, you could have a bunch of patents and things that protect the intellectual property, but it probably won't be usable and scalable, and it won't benefit humanity as much because you're protecting the person that did it. Mm,
Yeah,
and I guess the argument that they're making is like, well, we're turning that information into something that's usable and benefits humanity in this, and this ways. And yeah, I think it's. I don't have all the answers, obviously, but what I can say is that the definition of intellectual property is changing and shifting, and we're probably going to move into some sort of collective knowledge base, but it's still centralized in the one company. So it's not really, I don't know
Yeah.
what's going to happen. A lot of people are upset.
Yes, 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 yes. I think, we should mitigate risk. I think the biggest risks are obviously artists, being an artist myself, I can relate to that. And especially visual arts, in music, we have something like sampling happening for a long time already. And, usually in music, you can always argue that it sounds different and so it feels different and so it's a new song. But especially for the plagiarism of text, and also art styles. Ghibli was going viral 2 months ago, or it's still going viral for some people. And I can only imagine how the creator of Ghibli must have felt when he saw the entire internet flooded with his. Actually, I cannot expect how he was feeling, and actually that's an important question. How was he feeling? Was he feeling like, wow, everyone loves my art now, or, there were some videos of him actually reacting to some diffusion models when they were kind of new, and he was saying this kills the artist and everything, and I also agree with that. But yeah, it's a hard question, and the fact that we're redefining something like intellectual property because of innovation, namely AI, is very interesting. I think there's some possibilities also for blockchain technology, maybe NFT.
Yeah, that's very true. Like with NFTs, you can definitely safeguard a lot of this, and with blockchain encrypted. Perhaps that could be it.
Yeah, I think.
Also more expensive. Like this concept of intellectual property is just one of many that are going to come into crisis of
Yes,
definition,
yes,
crisis
yes.
of meaning. Hopefully they don't happen all at once because it's
Yeah.
just too big of a destabilizing force for our society. Everything will get put into question. Our political models, democracy, when you have deepfakes, when you have bots, when you have algorithms that model everyone. That is that still called a democracy? Yeah.
Yes. And governments and military are often spared of regulatory compliance when it
Yeah.
comes to innovation. So yeah, it's definitely a
And
risk.
just for reference, Otto, yesterday you said how long should we make the episode for?
I was not trying to look at the time, but it's already 4:44. Oh my Lord. Okay.
I knew this was gonna happen, but I didn't want to deflate your illusion.
Yeah, definitely my wish. Okay. I think we had a good conversation. I think we touched on some interesting topics. And yeah, any last wishes for any other young AI leaders listening right now, be it leaders or hub members? What is your message to them?
I just want to tell them, we're cheering for you. We want your hub to do the best, to grow, for you to grow personally in this project. And I'm 100% sure that any support, question, or help, or networking advice, or whatever you need, you can reach out to someone in the community and they'll be more than happy to do so. And I'm very much looking forward to hearing all the other conversations with the other hub members, connecting with each other, and potentially from this creating long-lasting friendships.
Mhm. Exactly. International connections, which is, I think, one of the most beautiful gifts that technology has given us.
I
Like that we
agree.
can so far from each other. And yeah, I also hope this was a fresh, yeah, new iteration of knowledge for everyone listening. And that's it.
Yeah. Should we share it in the next hub leaders meeting
That's a good idea.
with Alexandra? We can share like an unlisted link on YouTube.
We should do that.
First episode.
Yes.
Very interesting.
I think it was really, I think we were very interesting. I want to hear how it was.
I did look you up on Spotify, but I couldn't find you, so I'm guessing you're not under your name.
My second name is Aaron, actually, and then my artist name is Aaron Doss. But, don't take the music. I'm like reimagining myself as an artist, and I'm going to release very different music soon. But yeah,
Amazing combination, entrepreneur and artist.
yes.
Congratulations, Da Vinci.
Thank you, Valeria. You're great, and I think this was a good conversation. And yeah, we did it. It was easy.